This is one of the GS500 engines I've been working on, the Suzuki engines. If you watched the last episode, you'll know I got as far as getting the cylinder head off of this one and down to the cylinders, and we discovered quite a bit of damage in this cylinder. Something's been bouncing about in there. It's completely wrecked the cylinder head, and the cylinder, or the piston actually, sorry, is totally wrecked. So hopefully today we're going to get the cylinder block off of this engine and possibly have a look at getting the cylinder block off the other engine we have. Let's see how far we get. So a good sign with this engine is that the pistons do move very freely. So that suggests to me that it should come off with not too much bother. Famous last words. Well, that was a pain in the ass. The cylinder block just did not want to come off. I don't know if you can tell how much of a sweaty mess I am, but I really have just struggled for like 2 hours. Yeah, but glad I didn't film it. But essentially, it should come off now, he says. Hey! Oh, I just burst my nose. I feel like we punched in the face by a cylinder block. Oh, both mentally and physically. It's a new day. My nose has just about recovered. This is the other engine that had the seized piston rings. I've had this soaking with PB Blaster for the past 4 days I think now, and miraculously enough the pistons move. So they can't have been seized that badly really. They might have just begun to stick, so saved that one, which is actually quite surprising considering this engine's been sat with the head off it for so long. Right, I kind of know what I'm doing from the last engine, so now all that's left to do is to remove this cylinder and compare the two and see which one I'm going to use for the rebuild. How hard can that be? The answer is very hard. It took me absolutely ages to get the other one off. Trying to be really careful prying this off. Basically the mating surfaces between the cylinder and the crankcase. If you damage them at all, you'll never get a seal again. You'd need to get them refaced, and that's just not ideal at all. So I have covered my pry bar, but I'm also just avoiding touching the mating surfaces at all. Cast aluminium fins as well are really delicate. There's actually one that's already been broken off in this far corner, which is a bit of a shame, but it's not too bad, just as long as I don't smash any more off in the process here. I'm using wooden wedges at the back here to hold it up at this side and just very gently prying it from this side. It is moving, just very slowly. Okay, let's have a look. Keeping my face out of the way this time. There she goes. one piston free. I'm just trying to support the piston so it doesn't get knocked as it comes out. Oh man, I'm terrified of hurting myself again. I think what happens is the holes that these rods go through are a little bit corroded, and when it gets to the point where the threads are, because it's wider, it hits that corrosion and it becomes stiff. So I need to gently try and scrape the corrosion away as I slide it up and down. This time just try not to break my nose. Hey! Didn't twat myself in the face. So next up for removal are the pistons themselves. I'm going to probably use these ones in the rebuild because this top end of the engine didn't have any damage like the other one, so it's a set that I can reuse, and I'll also have the spare one from the other one, but ideally I want to use the same piston in the same cylinder. They actually look in reasonably good nick, which is a relief because the other one, obviously one of them is toast. I believe the process for removing pistons is quite straightforward. There's a circlip on each side. Should be able to just push the pin out, just like that. And voila! One piston. Now it's a good idea to keep the pin in place. Pop the circlip back in so that all the parts for each piston are all in the same place. You don't want to mix up parts because each piston will wear slightly differently from the other one, so it's a good idea that if they've bed in together, you want to keep them together for the rebuild. For the same reason, I'm going to mark on the piston skirt that this is the left front. There's actually an arrow inscribed at the top here, but just for safety's sake, left front. That's that all sealed in a bag. I'm going to clean all the parts before I reassemble the engine, but until I get to that point I'm going to keep them bagged, because actually they're all greasy and that will keep a layer of protection on the part. I don't want it to corrode before I come to assemble it. Just going to use the timing chain to very carefully rotate the crankshaft. Bring this piston up high so I can work on it a little bit easier. And that's my right hand piston. Right front. Well, that concludes the strip down the top end of both these engines. I've just got to pop the pistons off the other one, and then really it's time to get into the crankcases. If you thought the combustion cylinders were the tricky part, you are wrong. The crankcase is basically all the gearing for the engine. It's what takes the power from the combustion chamber and drives it into a sprocket, which drives your wheel and makes you go forward. I've said all along that this is a learning process for me, and what better way to learn than to get stuck in. So hopefully I'll see you in the next episode where we will be getting stuck into this crankcase. As usual, like this video, leave me a comment if you want to chat, and more importantly subscribe to the channel, and I will hopefully see you next time.